Alex, thanks for joining us.
Good to see you.
We made it. We made it to the
Hello, hello.
LinkedIn Live. It's
Super.
actually working. So today we're talking about the three things that HR can do to thrive with AI. Now, having talked to a lot of people in the people space, AI is sometimes a bit of a scary thing. It's a bit of an unknown. It's something that people aren't necessarily comfortable with, and starting is always hard. It's like, where do you even start? And I think that's why I'm happy to have you here today because you made me feel so comfortable with these topics and brought me into them nice and slow, and so I understood it. So that's why we've got you here today. To hopefully do that for everyone else here.
Yeah, I hope I'll do it justice. I'll do the topic justice for everyone joining the call.
And we've got challenge with HR right now. We've got all this tech coming into business. We've got AI, and everyone's like, we need to use AI at work. But I think even stepping back from that, it's just like AI in our own personal lives. Like, how do we approach the topic of AI? How do we even think about that? And I know you have some thoughts on that.
Most people, if we throw away software developers, most people are afraid of tech. Like that's the starting point. I can clearly remember when I started working in tech companies. At the time when I was seeing any page of technical documentation, I would not even read technical documentation. I would forward it to a product manager or to a software developer. And I think it starts with that fear, that initial fear that you're not going to be able to figure it out on your own and that tech is too complicated for you. And now the good news, and this is what we believe at Nanex with AI, is that not only AI. So there's all this talk about AI is this very powerful tool, and it will replace you one day, and like all the talk is about the potential, but there's little being said about how more accessible it is. Because for the first time, the interface, the way you're going to do stuff with tech, it's not via API or you don't need to write code. You can use natural language. And thankfully, hopefully everyone who's here, we are all trained for several years on natural language. And so that levels the playing field for everyone because suddenly you can do tech. Everyone can do tech. And so I think that's the first feeling. And as a regular user or as an AI addict, I'm always amazed when I get out of my bubble to see these strong negative emotions towards AI. This fear, this misconception. I'm like, well, I use it every day. It's amazing. Like, you don't? That's the first thing I want to convey is that it is actually super accessible tech because you just need to write.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I think everyone knows that, there's the chat GPTs of the world, and people are, that's what you have to, you use natural language, you type how you think, how you speak, and it takes that, goes away, finds data, and gives you answers, right? It's great. But even that is something that most people aren't using. I mean, there's a lot of people who are using it, but I wouldn't say
Yeah.
everyone's using that. Or they are using it, but you're in a business and you're copying like sensitive data out of a system, putting it into this tool to like get your answers and bringing it back in
Yeah.
because the company has no policy on that or no kind of safeguarding around that. So as a
Yeah.
in the HR space, that's like, a risk in itself. And then from the personal side, it's also am I doing that? Am I utilizing that? So I know you got me into more like day to day using AI. That's been great. And being comfortable with it, with prompting things like that. But you know, where do you recommend people start?
Here's how we think about it at 9x. At the core, you need three skills to get started and to start getting results with AI. And the good news is that the first one, you should have it because this is your field expertise. So this is what you already know. So if you are an HR professional, this is all the experience you've accumulated in recruiting people, in building organizations, helping managers become better at their jobs, and so on and so forth. It's all this knowledge that you have, this field expertise, for us is the prerequisite to thrive with AI. Why? Because you should not think as AI as some sort of sentient entity that's here to replace you someday that you should not collaborate with because it's gonna get smarter and then at some point it's gonna overachieve on everything you do. Rather, you should think about it as we think about it as a smart intern. So imagine you have Albert Einstein. on the other side of the chat. But an intern, it has no context about what you do. It has no idea what good looks like. It has no clue what are your objectives, the objectives of the company, what you're trying to get done at work. And so it can go in all directions. And without that context, it will, and it's probably going to give mediocre results or not what you expect. And I think there's also a lot of people that stop there and that went to ChatGPT with curiosity, typed in a few prompts, a few instructions, or a few questions, got disappointing results, and then were like, okay, this is like tech is not good enough, or that's not for me, or look, it made a mistake here. But the thing that it was missing when you were typing those prompts, when you were trying out something, was context. And context comes from expertise. Context comes from you knowing what you do, you knowing better than ChatGPT or the likes, and bringing that field expertise. So that's the first core skill I would say. And the good news is everybody has it already. So you can check this one already. Tap yourself on the
An easy
shoulder.
one. We've got the
You
first
already
skill.
Exactly. Like, how does it feel? You already have like 33% of the project is completed before starting.
Yes.
If it could always be like that, amazing. Now maybe a bit more on that. One of the challenges, so it's great that you have expertise, but you will find yourself, and that's one of the things we're looking into now at 9X and trying to explain how do we get people to convey their expertise to these things? Because you can't really, like, there are things you can express, there are things that are harder. And something that I found recently is this economist, late economist Polanyi, at beginning of 20th century talked about two types of knowledge. You have explicit knowledge and you have more tacit knowledge. And the explicit knowledge, if we take, for instance, a recruiting process, they are the different. We have a five interview or 5-step interview process. Okay, that's clear. The hiring manager is going to take the second interview. That's clear. We have some criteria in terms of experience required. That's clear. This is very easy to type down to a ChatGPT and elicit. On the other hand, you have this tacit knowledge, which is how do you explain cultural fit to ChatGPT? How are you going to articulate power dynamics when you have the 5 people who interviewed the person sitting in a room and we're going to decide whether the person gets hired or not? We know it is not very easy to explain because make these humans interacting with each other and not everything can be typed into a Notion page or a Confluence document. And so with field expertise, the good news is you already have it. The bad news is codifying your knowledge. That's the key here. You will need to codify your knowledge. You need to write down this is how we do things, and so you can delegate it to AI later. This will prove harder. And I think we're not quite ready as humans to explain how we do things in 100%. And that's also what some theorists in AI, in the field of AI, say will be one of the limits. Everything we can explain, AI will do reliably. When you will see it execute and deliver results, it will be, yeah, that's what I meant, but it's not quite what
Maybe
I
it's
want
missing
though.
like this gut feeling, and sometimes you
Exactly,
get
gut feeling
this
is another way
instinct,
to put
this
it.
human, and that's why the human will never go because there is a
No,
limitation to what tech can do. And I think that's, one of the parts to remember is that not to be scared, but how do we leverage and work with it because we've got complementary actual
yeah.
skills. We want to
Or
leverage
you
it for
could
what
call
it's
it
good at.
taste. You could call
Yeah.
it taste also. When
Hmm.
you have like one of the most discussed use cases at the moment on AI is generating content. So we can annoy people with the AI generated post on LinkedIn and somewhere else. But we can
Yeah.
see it doesn't pass the sniff test for most of
Hmm.
these systems, mine
Hmm.
included. I sort of like gave up. I'm writing my post manually, but it doesn't pass the sniff test, and that's because there is some tacit knowledge, some taste, some
Hmm.
judgment that AI doesn't get, or, and that's my point here, maybe that we haven't codified well enough, and that is going to take some time and it's going to take some efforts, independently of how good these systems will get.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's for field expertise. That's the first one. And the good news. Second one is we strongly believe you need to cultivate an experimental mindset. And that's sort of like a parallel with the first one. Like it's very rare. So for instance, we teach prompt engineering. At the core, so prompt engineering is how to write better instructions. So you get results that look closer to what you wanted in the first place.
So kind of this
One of the first,
codifying you talked about.
exactly. That's codifying, but one key in prompt engineering is iterating. Your
Uh-huh.
first prompt will suck. That's okay because it's the first one. And I see many people writing one thing, looking at the results, saying, "Meh, it's not so great," and closing the tab or just like
I've been there.
uh,
I've been like, this
leaving
isn't what I
there.
wanted.
We've all been there because we're very spoiled, right? You have a machine that you ask questions, it returns answers. All we have to do is type, and now our level of tolerance is so much that like if it fails, if this magical machine that gives answers to all your questions fails on the first run, we go away. And this is
Yeah,
it's a
I
very,
mean, it
very
doesn't really make
spoiled.
sense, which comes to your point now, experimental mindset, right?
Yes, yes. So developing an experimental mindset. If you are if you're a developer, if you're a software engineer, you're used to that because rarely where your code works in the first place. So you debug, you make
Hmm.
some changes, you test, you look at the results. It doesn't work this way. So you investigate. And here, the key with the experimental mindset when you work with AI is to look at your results, so the what ChatGPT returns, and use your judgment. So these are also skills you should have out of the box or developed over time. Uh, why don't you like this first result? What is wrong about it? Maybe it's too long. Then maybe in your prompt specify to make it shorter. Uh, Maybe the tone of voice is not great. Why not try adjusting it? And
Hmm.
so gradually, by changing your instructions, adding some more parameters, being clearer, you will get better results. To be experimental, to get there, I think people should be encouraged. That's maybe one thing we don't. I think maybe when challenges, we're all very busy, either having back-to-back meetings or impossible deadlines to meet.
Yep.
And when do you justify? So I can imagine the objection there. When can you justify the time to play with ChatGPT until I might get a result? And like it's not realistic, Alex. I have other things to do than to play with that. So I think this is more something, and this is what HR people and HR professionals have a role there is to mandate and ask it from the management and to make it maybe a policy or to make it integrated into the culture of
Hmm.
the company, to make it safe, to make it normal, to make it acceptable, to save time, to carve out time on a weekly basis to experiment with AI. And you can go very far with just 1 hour a week. I think
Yep.
it's even better if you do it multiplayer. If you, yeah, like for 1 hour, we all try to have AI help us with some task. We all sit in a room, we try different things,
It could
so you
actually be
can
really
benefit from,
fun.
yeah, yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
like, I'm just thinking about, being in a HR team, I was always back to back. Like, I never had time. But it could be really fun for even like team building or like, people, even just for the people team, right? Even if you're not talking about the whole company, even if you're just starting with your own immediate team, blocking out time, being like, hey, let's do our team call at the end. We're all going to take 20 minutes, even if it's 20 minutes, right? We're just going to
Yeah,
block this out. We're all going to prompt together. We're going to try and like gamify this a little bit, make it interesting and fun and getting this like experimental mindset, like getting it open. And I think with HR, sometimes we're so in this like repetitive tasks and admin, and we're fighting against all things, also against tech sometimes that isn't doing what we
yeah,
want, and taking the expertise we have. being open to it and just allowing the time in the workspace could be really, really powerful. And if you take that to the personal side of things, like if I'm a HR professional, just me, you can also do that in your own life, in your own spare time, you know. There's things that I like to use AI for, and they're all not to do with work. I started just in personal stuff, and then I moved it
Yeah,
into the workspace. And I think
yeah,
that's really interesting. Like we're 66% of the way through this with these two skills, and they're all in control from ourselves. Like
yeah,
we've got them already.
yeah. And I think your example of maybe starting with your personal use case is also great. So I've used it extensively at work before using it for personal use case. But for instance, there's some features I discovered. So with ChatGPT, you can use this voice mode. And if you've ever watched the movie Her, it is a
I haven't.
reality. You can talk to your phone. You can talk to ChatGPT. Have a voice conversation back to back with ChatGPT from your phone if you have the mobile app, or also on your laptop. And at the end, you get a transcript of the whole conversation. But what I wanted to
Wow.
mention is the first time I used this feature, I was on the way back from home, and that was not to, I know I use it to brainstorm on things we could do at 9x, but the first conversation was, hey, I have no clue about meditation. If I ever find the time, which I did not so far, to start or to give it a try, how would I approach it? And I had a 30-minute conversation with ChatGPT voice
Nice.
on meditation, learn the different types of meditation, and it felt, yeah, it felt like the movie Her, literally.
I'm gonna have to watch
Um,
this movie. I haven't seen it, so this is prompting
yeah,
me to watch it.
yeah. That's maybe
Um,
to ease you into this, yeah, to ease you into this universe.
nice.
Um, yeah, and so so field expertise, you have it. Experiential mindset, it's a muscle you can build and you can develop. And that's something organizations should promote, foster.
Yep.
The third one is technical expertise, and there I hear already some of you saying, "Okay, this is where it stops. I'm not gonna go there.
Nothing.
All right, that was it. That was fun. I'll stick with my field expertise and my basic prompts." But technical expertise is very relative. So we're not asking you to learn coding and to know how to deploy server on the internet. You don't need to do that. Uh, Technical expertise starts with being a bit curious about how these systems work. So how are answers generated? If you look it up, there's some great YouTube videos on the topic just to understand that once again, it's just a tool. It's not this is not a sentient being here to about to overrule the world. First thing, and then second, it starts with prompting. Prompting is a technique. There are different ways you can prompt. If you are right now having using ChatGPT like you would chat with a colleague, know that there are some ways to write clearer instructions. And one thing I wanted to share there is probably the easiest prompting framework out there. It's super easy to remember. So it's RTF, and it stands for role, task, and format. So you have like one example right here. So the key is you give first the LLM or ChatGPT a persona that's going to sort of like narrow down or force the LLM to answer the question as an expert in ideally the task you would like it to perform. Have the task, and the F stands for format. And you can see here an example of how you can really tweak and control what you get from a prompt. Can go, instead of having a bullet point list that's never ending. Here in this case, I want to plan. So maybe it's better in tabular format. And now you can generate images, you can generate charts. Like it's crazy what you can do. But just by specifying the format, I get a vastly different result than if I had a simple prompt saying, "Give me a plan to improve my work-life balance." Like the bare bone structure is probably this one. Give me a plan to improve my work-life balance. Provide additional context or additional role and format to an LLM, and you will already get better results. And what you can add on top of that, and then there are other prompting frameworks that are a bit more advanced, is the additional context. So here in this case, ChatGPT, we know each other, so I don't need to provide too much context about me. But if you're not using these tools on a regular basis, it's useful to add, hey, this is what I do. These are my challenges. This is what I care about. And once again, just a few more pieces of information. It
Mhm.
makes sense to test also with or without. See the difference for yourself. And yeah, you're already on the technical learning train, I'd say.
Interesting because you think about AI and and instantly you think like overwhelming. But if you really break it down to it, the day-to-day use case that everyone can get to is, using your ChatGPT style of tool, going in and prompting and getting a result. I mean, I use it to solve my blank page issues. So, the blank page syndrome where you've got
Yeah.
like nothing on a page and you just can't start from zero. It's like almost paralyzing sometimes for me. And so now I'm using ChatGPT to be like, okay, give me like the bare bones of something. Like, give me like an idea of where to start from for like keynote speeches to, even a meal plan for the week to like, I'm doing all sorts of stuff in there just to get the first bit out. And then from there, I can refine it from like human optimized. Like, I take it and I refine it myself, but I'm not starting from zero. And to
Yeah.
get to something that's useful, first I was just like, give me a meal plan for the week. And then it's like, oh, give me a meal plan for the week that includes like a variety of, protein sources. And then it's like, and then you can now using this framework,
Yeah.
I could be even more specific. I'm a nutritionist. I want to get X out of my meal plan. I need it for 3 people. I need it to be easy and fast, whatever it might be. So yeah, you can really see how prompting can just elevate and the use case gets so much easier once you have a structure and you can see the value add. So it's a good place to start for sure.
And it's, again, your example is great. If you are not if you're not certain yet of what to use AI for at work, why don't you start with yourself? Why don't you start with planning some of the tasks or some things
Yeah.
you planning your next trip or yeah, I think
I mean,
groceries
I mean,
groceries is one example or diet or yeah.
I mean, it sounds silly, but like there are things that can actually speed things up, and like I don't have a lot of time, so I do use it to help with that, but I also use it for work. And I think one of the scary things about workspace, I think, is that people are using this already. Like people are
Yeah.
definitely using it. There's people who aren't, but there are people who are. And I think the workspace needs to get onto these kind of like policies around how they, one, encourage AI, like you talked about, leaving space for experimentation, but also how they regulate it and govern it around security and safety and risk of, transferring data in and out of systems. I think that's something that, HR really need to think about, talking to their management about, because even
Yeah.
if people, people are definitely transferring data out of their systems. Like if you think they're not,
Yes.
they definitely are.
No, no, it's
So
happening. Whether you want it or not, it's
it's definitely
happening, and
happening.
yeah, and maybe like so, and I think HR is really has a special place in the organization when it comes to AI. So you're not going to be able to avoid this topic, unfortunately, if you're afraid of that. We've already yeah mentioned. I'll give you some tips on how you can or should get started. I think really the starting point, it's not going away. So the first step is really to embrace it and practicing for yourself. This will make matters more concrete. You should not treat it like another tech topic or another subject matter expert topic that I'm just here to coordinate. Yeah, and I'll be watching on the sidelines. No, you're going to be an active participant. You're going to benefit from that. It's going to be fun
Yeah,
also. And next to that, practicing with yourself. I think there's really two things, like two steps that are going to, or two big questions that any organization will face soon. One for sure is going to be what you mentioned, the AI policy. What's our internal policy with respect to AI?
hmm
Which covers the tools, like which tools can we use at work? So right now we have lots of businesses we speak to that are unofficially using AI. I think that is a risk because of the data that is being passed to the systems.
Mm-hmm.
Especially HR, you're dealing with sensitive data. I think most HR professionals are aware and more
I
cautious, and
think
maybe
so.
that's also a break towards that. No, I'm not using AI because I shouldn't. So which tools? What are the rules around data security? That's not something you need to come up with. It's probably IT product that's going to lead there. But then it should be communicated company-wide on like, these are the tools we use. We want you to use
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT if you have licenses with Gemini, Claude, or other models.
Mm-hmm.
Please work with ChatGPT. Some ethical consideration as well, and general rules like employees will have questions on what can we use it for. Am I allowed to? What type of information is a no-go? In order to have like safe, compliant usage across the organization. So that's step two,
Yep.
a policy. And step three, we hope, because this is we are positioning ourselves on. Uh, Many companies will require or will demand. Your team will demand some training on these systems because this is new, uncharted territory. I think a lot of people. So the good thing is you don't like not all organizations will need necessarily 9x training. I think a lot of companies will also manage to figure things out on their own if you stay with prompting, if you have maybe some early adopters inside the organization, they can start a movement and help
Mm-hmm.
others onboard others. But for more advanced things that go beyond prompting, uh, now everything like the AI world, our AI bubble, we're more talking about what's coming next, which are agents, which are vastly more powerful because they can not just talk to you, they can execute tasks as well. They can
Mm-hmm.
access your tools. And so you can imagine agents where you have an interview, it'll say, well, this was a great interview. Go, like candidate goes to next stage, and then personnel is updated. The candidate goes to next stage. The email is sent to the hiring manager. You're
Wow.
next, and the the link to schedule the next interview is sent to the candidate. Like these kind of things are coming, and for these things, yeah, either your tech team will need to jump in and help or you will need to train your business teams to these new tools that are coming.
Yeah, there's a lot in the space there, and I think, you currently have a lot of actually free resources out there. I'm actually going to
Yeah.
link something in the comments here for anyone interested. You have tutorials.
Yes. So a few words on this resource. So we want with tutorials to showcase actual use cases you can implement. Um, and they will range from prompting. So you have some prompting tutorials showing you like step by step. First write this, then write that. In order to, for instance, we have one that's planned on you want to generate calls script for your sales team. You can do that with ChatGPT. You can give information about your company, what the
Awesome.
product you're selling, your target customers, and then generate a script that you then review all the way down to more advanced things with agents and automations. And we'll have like right now there's about 20 tutorials on the site. We are going to have 50 by the end of the year. We will have HR tutorials. I want to have tutorials for all functions, just to give you an
It's
after
going to be
like
super helpful.
some taste of what is possible. And there actually, so for those of you who may have ideas or use cases that where you have questions like, I want to automate this part of my recruiting process. Is it possible? If yes, how and how would you do that? Feel free to DM me. And because this is basically our research laboratory. Yeah, we talk
And
to
Alex
tools
is
to
really good at he's really good at firstly responding, but secondly helping. So he'll be like, "This is great. This is what we can do." So really, like, if you have ideas about things you'd want to
yeah.
automate, definitely like DM him. You can find him on LinkedIn. And I have to wrap us up because we're over time, even though
Oh,
I
I
would love
didn't
to
know.
spend all my time talking to Alex all day. He's fantastic. His team is fantastic. I've linked their tutorials if you want to check them out. They also have a YouTube. You can find them at go9x.com. And of course, you can see this and watch it back or share it. It's going to be on our Stacked YouTube page soon. And I have to say, Alex, thank you so much for joining our first People Tech Talks. Thanks,
Thank you
Alex.
for joining. Bye bye. Ciao.